Welcome back to the deep dive. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Visualize this. It is February 2026.
Okay.
You're standing in a voting booth in Dhaka, or maybe Chittagong, or a small village in Sylhet. It's hot. There's that distinct smell of ballot paper and indelible ink.
Yeah, that classic election day atmosphere. You can practically hear the background noise of people chatting in line.
Exactly. And you've got the usual white ballot paper in your hand to pick your local member of parliament. That's the routine. We've done that before.
Right.
But then the polling officer hands you a second piece of paper. It's pink. And suddenly you realize this isn't just about picking a politician to fix the roads. This is about rewriting the source code of the entire country.
It is a massive, massive moment. February 12th, 2026. This is the date set for what might be the most consequential vote in Bangladesh's history since independence.
It's huge.
But what's wild is that while the news is 247 coverage of who will be prime minister, there is this huge fog of confusion around that pink piece of paper.
That is exactly what we are clearing up today. We've got a stack of sources here, analysis from Keno Kivabe, reports from Desh TV and BBC News Bangla, and some really sharp commentary from Khalid Farhan.
So our mission today.
Our mission is to figure out what actually happens if you stamp yes or no on that pink ballot. Because it turns out it is not just a simple question.
Not at all. It's a bundled deal that changes everything from how the president is elected to whether you can get internet access as a human right. It is a referendum on the operating system of the nation.
So let's get into the mechanics first, because this isn't like the Brexit referendum or, say, the 1991 vote in Bangladesh, is it?
No, and that is a crucial distinction. Usually a referendum is binary on a single issue. Think about Brexit. Should the UK leave the EU?
Yes or no?
Simple. Or the 1991 referendum in Bangladesh. Should we switch from a presidential system to a parliamentary one? One question, one answer.
But this time, according to Desh TV News and the analysis by Khalid Farhan, voters are facing 4 specific questions on the ballot. But they're all tied to this July Charter, or July Sonod.
And here's the kicker.
You can't pick and choose.
Right. It's an all-or-nothing scenario. Think of it like a massive software update for your phone. You know, when you get that notification, it says, Update 15.0 includes security patches, a new font, a different camera app, and we moved the home button.
And you can't say, okay, I'll take the security patch, but I hate the new font, so leave that out.
Exactly. You click Install All, or you stay on the old version.
Yep.
Voting yes on the pink ballot means you're approving all 84 specific reform proposals at once.
And no means you reject the entire package. You stick with the current constitution.
The whole thing.
84 proposals. That is a huge pill to swallow in one go. It almost feels overwhelming. Where did these even come from?
Well, it was a long road to get here.
Yeah,
After the July uprising, the interim government took over and set up 6 reform commissions. These guys looked at everything: judiciary, police, public administration, the works. They eventually formed a consensus commission, which took 166 recommendations, argued about them with political parties, and, well, they whittled it down to these final 84 points.
So it's a distilled list. Okay, we know the mechanism. It's a bundled vote. But let's open up that bundle. What are we actually voting for? Because when I was reading through the source material, some of these changes are absolutely structural.
Structural is the right word. If yes wins, the biggest change, the one that will arguably change the flavor of politics the most, is the introduction of an upper house.
A Senate.
Essentially, yes, a bicameral parliament. Right now, Bangladesh has a unicameral system. One house, whoever wins the most district seats controls everything. It's a winner-takes-all system.
Which historically has been a recipe for, well, let's call it very strong governments. If you win the districts, you hold all the cards.
To put it mildly, the new proposal creates a lower house, which is the traditional parliament we know, but adds an upper house with 100 members.
And the way people get into this upper house is totally different.
Completely. This is where Khalid Farhan's breakdown was really helpful. He explains it using proportional representation, or PR.
I want to drill down on this because PR can sound boringly technical, but it actually completely changes the math of power. Farhan used an example with 3 imaginary parties, right?
The Farhan party, the Maklu party, and the Piklu party. Yes.
So walk us through this.
Okay, let's walk through it because it's the key to understanding why this matters. Imagine an election. In the lower house, it's the old rules. Let's say the Farhan party wins a bunch of districts. Maybe they win a district with 51% of the vote, and the Maklu party gets 49%. Who gets the seat?
The Farhan party. The 49% who voted for Maklu get nothing. Their vote effectively just evaporates for that district.
Exactly. That is first past the post. So the Farhan party could win enough districts to control the lower house. They're the government. But let's say the Maklu party is popular, but their voters are spread out all over the country. They lose the individual district races. But if you count every single vote across the whole nation, they actually got, say, 40% of the popular vote.
In the current system, those votes are wasted. They get zero power.
Precisely. It's a classic problem. You can have millions of supporters, but if they aren't concentrated in specific areas, you get 0 seats.
So how does the upper house fix that?
In the proposed upper house, seats are allocated based on that national percentage. So we ignore the districts, we just look at the total pile of votes. If the Maklu party got 40% of the total votes nationwide,
They get 40% of the seats in the upper house.
exactly, 40 seats.
That is a game changer. Because now, the Farhan party might control the lower house, but they have to deal with the Maklu party in the upper house. They can't just ignore them anymore.
And that is the check and balance. Bills passed in the lower house have to also pass in the upper house. If you don't have a majority in both, you can't just bulldoze legislation through. You have to negotiate, you have to compromise.
It forces coalition building, basically by design. It forces the parties to talk to each other.
It tries to prevent what the sources call the dictatorship of the majority. It gives a voice to smaller parties or, geographically dispersed groups who usually get wiped out.
Okay, so that represents the legislature. But what about the top dog, the prime minister? We have seen, historically, once someone gets into that prime minister's chair, it is very, very hard to get them out.
Power tends to concentrate there like gravity, yes.
So what did the pink ballot do about that?
It takes a sledgehammer to that concept. The proposal includes strict term limits. A prime minister can serve a maximum of 2 terms.
Period. Even if they take a break and come back.
Period, or a total of 10 years.
Yeah.
No loopholes, no resetting the clock. And there is another clause that I found really interesting.
What's that?
The prime minister cannot simultaneously be the head of their political party.
Wait, really? That is almost unheard of in the region. Usually the PM is the party chief. It is how they control their MPs. Do what I say or I kick you out of the party.
Exactly. But this reform wants to separate the management of the state from the management of the party. The idea is that the prime minister should be working for the country, not spending half their day managing internal party politics.
That theoretically weakens the PM's stranglehold on their own party, too. It decentralizes power even within the ruling organization. That's a fascinating dynamic.
It is, and this philosophy of checking power extends to the president as well.
The president in Bangladesh is usually seen as a ceremonial figure, a bit of a rubber stamp for the prime minister.
Right now, yes. They're elected by an open vote in parliament, literally MPs raising their hands, so obviously the ruling party just installs whoever they want.
No one dares vote against the party line.
Of course not. The new system proposes a secret ballot where members of both the upper and lower houses vote.
So a secret ballot means an MP could theoretically vote against their party's choice without getting caught.
It opens the door for a president who actually has broad support, rather than just being a party loyalist. But there's one specific power change regarding the president that really stood out to me. It's about pardons.
Oh, the death row pardons. This is heavy stuff. I remember reading this.
It is. Currently, the president has the power to pardon criminals, including those on death row. And this has sometimes been used politically.
Pardoning party activists who committed crimes.
Exactly. The reform proposes a massive restriction. The president can no longer unilaterally pardon someone without the consent of the victim's family.
That shifts the power entirely, takes it away from the state executive, and gives it to the citizens, specifically the victims.
It's a very populist, justice-oriented move. It sends a signal that political connections can't save you if the victim says no.
There are also some cultural and rights-based shifts in this bundle. We're seeing a proposed change in constitutional identity, from Bengali to Bangladeshi.
Now, for an outsider, that might sound like just semantics.
Potato, potato.
Yeah.
Right. But in Bangladesh, that distinction is politically charged.
It is huge. It has been a debate since 1972. Bengali is an ethno-linguistic identity. But Bangladesh has many ethnic minorities. The Chakma, Marma, Garo, Santal, who are not ethnically Bengali.
So the argument is that Bangladeshi is a citizenship identity, not an ethnic one. It's more inclusive.
Yes, though there is still debate. Some argue Bengali nationalism is the root of the nation's independence struggle, but the pink ballot is banking on Bangladeshi being the modern, inclusive path forward.
And they're also proposing to recognize languages other than Bengali for those ethnic minorities.
Which is another big step.
And one more modern twist I saw, internet access.
Yes. Recognizing internet access as a fundamental human right.
Which sounds great, but it is not just about Netflix or scrolling Instagram.
No, it's a direct response to the internet shutdowns we've seen during protests in recent years. If the internet is a constitutional right, the government can't just hit the kill switch whenever they want to stop information from spreading.
So if I'm listening to this, I am thinking checks and balances, term limits, inclusive identity, internet rights. This sounds like a dream package.
It does on paper.
So why is there confusion? Why is there controversy? Why isn't everyone just throwing a parade?
Well, here is where we have to peel back the layer of idealism and look at the messy reality of politics. The controversy isn't necessarily about what is in the package, but how it's being sold.
The BBC News Bangla report was pretty scathing on this front. They talked about the level playing field, or rather, the lack of one.
Remember, this referendum is being overseen by the interim government. By definition, an interim government is supposed to be a neutral referee.
Their job is to hold the whistle, ensure the game is fair, and let the political parties play.
But according to the reports, the referee is currently running down the sideline trying to score a goal for Team Yes.
That is exactly what is happening.
The government is actively campaigning for a yes vote. They're releasing videos, posting on Facebook, creating anthems, but it goes deeper than just ads.
Yeah, the BBC reports that they're instructing banks to hang banners and telling school teachers to campaign for the yes vote.
Which is legally tricky. If you're a government employee or a bank under central bank regulation, can you say no to that instruction?
Probably not without risking your career. And that is the problem. Legal experts like Shadeen Malik have raised huge red flags here.
I bet.
If the district commissioners and the UNOs, the civil servants who physically run the election, are being told by their bosses that yes is the only acceptable outcome, how can we trust the count?
It creates a conflict of interest that you can see from space. And the narrative they're pushing is very binary, too. It's vote yes to end fascism, vote no, and get nothing.
Right. They're framing no not just as a disagreement on policy, but as a vote for the old authoritarian ways. That puts a lot of moral pressure on the voter.
It makes a no vote feel almost seditious.
And where do the political parties stand? I saw that Jamaat-e-Islami is all in.
Jamaat is fully backing the yes campaign. But the BNP, one of the largest parties, is playing it very cool. They aren't saying no, but they aren't campaigning for yes either. Their stance is kind of, we have our own reform plan, we'll let the people decide.
It's a strategic neutrality.
Yeah.
They don't want to oppose popular reforms, but they also don't want to be seen as holding hands with the interim government.
Exactly. It keeps their options open.
So we have the mechanics, the reforms, and the controversy. But I want to move to what Khalid Farhan calls the paper versus reality problem. Because you can write the most beautiful constitution in the world, but does that actually change how a police officer behaves on a Tuesday night in Dhaka?
This is the skeptical heart of the discussion. Farhan uses this brilliant and, frankly, hilarious analogy, the horn-free zone.
I love this. For context, the government declared certain areas around the Secretariat and the airport in Dhaka as horn-free zones.
They put up signs, they made announcements, they probably had a ribbon-cutting ceremony.
And yet, if you go to those areas right now,
Beep, beep, honk, honk.
It is a symphony of honking. The law is there, the sign is there, the reality, unchanged.
And the point is, why should we believe that writing independent judiciary on a piece of paper is any different than that no honking sign?
Exactly. Farhan points out that technically, under the old Constitution, the judiciary was supposed to be independent. On paper, there was separation of powers.
But in practice, the political culture overrode the paper. The phones kept ringing from the executive to the judges.
So the skepticism is, we are spending all this political capital on changing the text, but are we changing the culture? Because if the people in power still have the mindset of, I win, I rule, then the text doesn't matter.
It's the difference between de jure what is in law and de facto what happens in reality. And there's another practical hurdle, the timeline.
Right, let's assume yes wins on February 12th. Do we wake up on February 13 with an upper house and a new president?
No, it's not magic. If yes wins, a Constitution Reform Council is formed. They have 180 days, 6 months, to finalize the actual legal text of the amendments.
That is a long time in politics. 6 months is an eternity.
And after that text is finalized, they have another 30 days to actually form the upper house. So we're looking at a transition period of at least 7 months.
And during that transition, you need political stability. You need consensus to hold. If things fall apart during those 6 months, The whole pink ballot mandate could get stuck in bureaucratic limbo.
Precisely. It's a fragile bridge between the vote and the implementation, and there's a risk that the momentum just dissipates.
So let's bring it all back to that voter in the booth. You're holding the pink paper. You have a choice.
It is a heavy choice. A no vote is essentially a vote for the status quo. It's saying, I prefer the devil I know, or maybe I don't trust this specific package.
And a yes vote is a vote for a massive overhaul. It is a vote for decentralization, for PR, for checks and balances,
Yeah.
but it is also a vote of faith. You have to trust that the implementation will actually happen, and you have to accept that all-or-nothing bundle.
And you have to be comfortable, or at least willing to overlook, the fact that the government is pushing hard for this outcome, perhaps bending the rules of neutrality to get there.
It really feels like a test of the nation's maturity. Can the country handle a structural shift this complex?
The ambition of the July Charter is undeniable. It's trying to fix the root causes of the authoritarianism that led to the uprising. It is trying to design a system where a dictator cannot emerge again. That is a noble goal.
But the road from noble goals to reality is paved with honking cars and ignored signs.
That is one way to put it.
So here is the thought we want to leave you with today. We've talked about the mechanics and the controversy. But think about this. If the government controls the administration, the police, and the schools, and they are telling everyone that no means nothing, is a no vote even practically possible?
Or is the outcome of this pink ballot already written before you even stamp the ink?
And even if yes wins by a landslide,
Yeah.
and we get the new laws, does a new constitution actually stop the honking? Or are we just buying more expensive signs?
That's the question.
That is for you to decide. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We will see you next time.